Alright, man, you're good to start up whenever. Is there a mic stand? Where is it?
Hello, everybody. Hello. 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 It's time. Is anybody mistakenly attending a reading series right now? If so, you might want to mosey somewhere else, because it's about to get pretty literary. Thank you. This is the AD Reading Series. Thank you all for coming and spending your time. Clap, clap, go ahead. Just keep it going. Thank you for spending your afternoon here. I understand it's the first nice Saturday, really, of 2014, and this is about as dark a room as you could get, while still being in a room with a giant window. We do this reading series quarterly. I don't know, has anybody not been to one before? You can identify yourself however you want. Ooh, a lot of hands. Well, it's not always in a bar, so this is new. We're liking this. It's usually in an art gallery at 7 Dunham. I don't know if we're gonna keep doing that or not. And I don't usually have this to lean on, so that's kind of nice. We do it about quarterly. It seems maybe a little bit like I organize it because I'm up here talking and introducing, but I don't. Michael Varley does, so let's give him a round of applause. This is sort of his project. I just don't prepare and then talk. Yeah, so I think that we could just get started right away here. I understand that Mike is first, and he's going to be reading this very pink story. That if I'm not deceived by the first few lines, takes place in the 17th century in Massachusetts. So that's pretty appropriate mood for where we all are now, drinking on a Saturday afternoon in the 21st century. So imagine that, put yourself back, most of America is woods, everything's terrifying. Okay, I think you're ready. I'm gonna read Mike's bio here. What does it say? Michael Varley has made a couple of spoken word albums, the events of election 08 and 12. A couple of feature films, Bruce and Dom and Brunch the Movie, some of which are over there. And a few third-person bios over the years. This edition of the reading series, he'll be reading a story about Solomon Stoddard, a 17th century Puritan pastor who happens to share a birthday with a 21st century friend and filmmaker. Michael Varley, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. So, I think I'm going to talk without the microphone for just this part so that I can describe this.
And you can let me know if I'm loud enough. So, in 2012, a group of friends and I, many of which are back there in the corner, did this thing called, well, we didn't call it anything. It was a birthday project of sorts, where for every friend's birthday in the year 2012, we did a different art project. And this particular one is for my friend Darren Kwan. Now Darren Kwan has something called BookBook. Is anybody familiar with BookBook? BookBook is the wallet for your iPhone that looks like a book. That when you open it up, you can have your iPhone in there and your credit cards and all that jazz. And we, as a group, just thought it was absolutely hilarious. And we kind of took it on as like a totem for the group. And when it came time for his birthday, what we did was we made bookbooks for him. So anybody that was born on his birthday, which I believe was September, anybody know?
27th.
September 27th, we made books for him. So, for instance, this is a little abstract, but Google was born on September 27th. And inside, there are all different facts about Google, and then all the home pages for Google's birthday that have occurred over the years, and then other special Google moments. There's also Cytherea. Cytherea is notable for being a porn star that squirts when she orgasms, and she happens to share the birthday as Darren Kwan. Samuel Adams, born on Darren's birthday. And there's all sorts of facts about all these people. Cervantes, the Great Blackstone. Who was the cat one? I don't remember. Oh, Meatloaf. Meatloaf was born on Darren's birthday. So my particular one was Solomon Stoddard. I went on Wikipedia and I looked up, obscure birthdays, and Solomon Stoddard is one of them. And he is a 17th century Puritan pastor. And I decided to write a fictional account about his encounter with the devil. And this is actually the first fictional story that I've read at the TheADreadingseries. I typically read poetry or spoken word or creative nonfiction. So this should be interesting.
Solomon Stoddard, 17th century Puritan pastor of the Congregationalist Church of Northampton, Massachusetts. Solomon Stoddard's glimpse of destiny. Solomon Stoddard was riding through New England countryside on horseback, as he was wont to do on days before imminent winter. Leaf patterns shifted as the wind swayed the hills, and he felt particularly unworthy of God's presence in his life, in a humble way that escapes modern language. He rode through the Henry farmstead, good congregants and honest Puritans, generous with their possessions and easily shepherded by Solomon's sermons. There was a growth of hemlock trees in the southeast corner of the property. Solomon particularly enjoyed frequenting the jagged canopies. The jagged canopies darkened the daylight and made the devil feel invigoratingly near. Solomon enjoyed the thrill of facing the fear, standing taller in his saddle and stoning his gaze out into the forest surrounding the middle distance. On this day's occasion, something was different from the grove's first sight. The hue of the hemlock conifers was bluer than normal, darker, like deeply spotted ink, and the treetops seemed all to invert themselves, oriented to some magnetic force in the forest center. Whether this vision was unique to clergy or universal to man was unknown to Solomon, alone as he was in the Massachusetts countryside. But he knew it was real, realer than anything he had ever encountered in his yet young ministry. The horse balked at first approach as animals skittered out in fitful streams. His spur pressed with tender firmness on the horse's right flank, and his fear was instantly dispelled. Blackness tinted the sky inside, and throughout the wood only the faint outline of bark and stark red holly berries could be seen, hovering in the darkness like poisoned fireflies. Solomon swore no promises to God to keep him alive. He begged no mercy for the sins he had committed in preparation for an uncertain end to his ride. He held instead the faintest smirk up to his lips and fire in his eyes, eagerly awaiting confirmation of the existence of his life's nemesis. In the forest center, Solomon found a pedestal with ivy grown around it. On the top was an object Solomon had no concept of. A voice pierced the murk from beyond the forest's door. Solomon Stoddard, come forth and discover the secrets of 2012. Satan, what tricks do you intend? I am a holy man. You are bound to speak plain. I offer only knowledge to further your flock and increase the yield of your evangelization. Knowledge is what you gave Eve to poison Adam. I'll have nothing that comes from you. The voice laughed with smooth amusement. You are not a sheep, Solomon Stoddard. You are a shepherd. It is your calling to know, for the sake of the lesser. If the farmer knew holes in his fencing, would he not mend them? If the field boy saw the coming of wolves, would he not save the flock from destruction? Everything from your hand is evil. Everything from my hand is of this earth, the same earth you walk upon, the same dust you're made from. Evil is the opposite of good. The earth is the opposite of the sky. You will never jump so high as to leap from your mother. You are trying to trick me, Satan. There's a reason why they call the end point the destination, Solomon Stoddard. You are destined to get there whether you will it or not. The book on you is already written. I'm only offering a chance to view the contents. Solomon eyed the pedestal suspiciously. What is this contraption shaped like soap, yet polished like glass? It is called an iPhone. Sight and sound? Its origins are beyond your understanding, but its applications are numerous. Would you like to know your future? There was a long pause in the utterly silent forest. Solomon wondered where his God was in this moment, even as he sat there inside him. How does it work? Pick it up. Solomon picked up the surprisingly light device. Now depress the button. This? No, that is the earphone. This? Yes. Now slide to unlock. What? Take your index finger and depress it on the glass, then slide your finger to the right. Solomon did as instructed. The arrow mechanism flew effortlessly to the right. Password? 6s. Now push the button that says Safari. Safari? S-A-F-A-R-I. Bottom middle. Wikipedia? Yes, the witchcraft of knowledge, compiled by countless heathens. Solomon squinted at the small picture in the corner of the screen. Who is that figure in the corner? Take your fingers as though to pinch flesh, then release. The picture exploded on the magical glass. It revealed a man unknown, yet strikingly familiar to Solomon. It is you, Solomon, a man of clerical distinction. Your legend will stretch 400 years into the future. Release the picture by pinching its sides, and read your certain destiny. Solomon scrolled and read of a frontier pope to rival the Vatican. He read of a man of great dignity and little results, presiding over the end of his Puritan faith as the scourge of Catholicism persisted in all its malignancy. He'd read of actions he'd never considered, of hubris beyond his limitations, of logical progressions viable and horrible, every single step he would now take in his life. Of course, he rebelled. This isn't real, I would do none of this. Oh, but you will. You're wrong. Knowing the outcomes, I can now anticipate them. You may be all-knowing of yourself, Solomon Stoddard, but you are not all-knowing to the world. It exists all around you in the very air and anticipates your every move. It will tempt and suppress, distract and delay, preventing you from action before its very conception. And the more you persist testing it, the more it will amplify, until your case of flesh submits to its will. Only then will your destiny return to a more manageable, bearable volume. I will kill myself. So quickly return to the devil's embrace, Solomon. I say be my guest. No one's been able to break his plan yet, and I've been trying since eternity's start. Nothing would please me more. Solomon was Solomon was reeling from the full weight of this horror, barely able to stand. You, Satan. I can't say I have a bit of pride, Solomon. I have only malice to get me through all time. It's not an envious position, though you seemed to think so a few minutes ago. I will kill myself and end this curse. On hearing the sudden tone of clear-headed resoluteness, the bodiless voice abruptly became its most yet sincere. Very well, Solomon. 20 paces down the path, you will find a knife dropped by a hunter some days ago. It's sharp enough to do the job if you are truly brave. I cannot stay with you, lest I be tempted to intervene against the pattern's response. It's tiring work, orchestrating an apocalypse, and he always wins in the end. Good luck, with all the sincerity a devil can muster. Show us what it's like on the other side of nothingness. At his completion, the spell broke from over the forest along with its visions. Bright blue returned to the sky. Back came the forest smells. In the distance, on the path outside the forest, Solomon could hear a particular sound, the gallop of beating hooves. Destiny was coming for him. His horse, quite stupefied with fear all this time, mechanically turned around without its master's command and started toward the noise. Solomon jumped off and the horse bit at him, looking to confine the preacher to his place. Solomon fought off his cloak and ran in the direction of the knife. The horse followed in pursuit, gnashing and stamping at Solomon to prevent his attempt at free will. The blade was on the path, shining in the sun, promising an end to all inevitables. Solomon grasped it, and the horse kicked true, throwing a hoof across his face like a barn beam. Rather than dazing, it sobered him, the scope of God's plan growing ever more unquestionable. He stood up without thought or hesitation and ran the horse straight through, stabbing it again and again in the chest. The horse tried violently to thrust itself from the preacher's embrace, but the man was filled with unholy blessings. One arm locked around the horse's neck, stabbing and wrestling in ever fainter struggle. It fell at the foot of the iPhone pedestal, leaving Solomon a sopping nightmare of blood and dirt brown. The militia was in view now, the best men of all his congregants, riding en masse to stop him. The final knife thrust had lodged in the horse's sternum. He could not recapture the blade. Solomon began to run towards what he knew not. He saw off the path a jagged stump he might throw himself upon in one last effort of rebellion. The men were audible now, calling out his holy title. He leapt into the air to come down upon the stump stomach first, intending to be impaled. The stump was rotted through and collapsed under his weight, leaving him gasping for air. The men circled around him, at a loss to understand. "Father, what devilry has afflicted you? Were you attacked? What has happened to the horse?" "Brother Henry, there is no time. Father, the Catholics attacked the church's mission school. You must come at once." And no time was wasted. They threw his limp body over the back of a horse and secured him like a sack of grain, filled with urgency that questions no action. And as they rode back in the idyllic autumn evening, earth-caked and dripping, Solomon Stoddard gave himself in to infinite despair. A life preordained that could not be owned, words that meant as much as the stones. Just then, a whisper came from within Solomon, seemingly beyond his control. "Listen well, Solomon Stoddard, for this is the last time you will ever hear me in so simple terms. You now have knowledge you cannot reverse, yet I still love you. Live as though you don't know the truth, and fulfill your insignificance in accordance with my plan. Just as you are nearly nothing, so you are nearly everything. When you come back home, you will understand." And with that, the spirits never spoke to Solomon again.